Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for the Expanse Season 5, Episode 9, Winnipesaukee. This video is part of a series of videos where I review episodes of the Expanse, so I'll have to start with a spoiler warning for the Expanse up to Season 5, Episode 9 if you haven't seen up to this point. You will not want to watch this video, otherwise some things will be spoiled for you. So this was quite an exciting episode. It was the penultimate episode. It was mainly wrapping up Amos's storyline and his journey this season. And for the other storylines, it was kind of setting the stage up for this big finale, which I'm so pumped to see, and I can't wait to see it. So it was a pretty good episode, quite exciting. So let me start with the Bobby Draper, Alex, and like the Holden, Rosinante, and Naomi storyline. I'll wrap it up all in one big bow because not much sort of went on in this storyline. So it's kind of just setting the stage for the finale, as I said. We see how the Alex, Bobby, Holden, and Bull tried to interpret what the change in Naomi's distress call means, and Alex sort of nails it on the head that it can't be a coincidence. It's not just static or whatever that of why Naomi's message all of a sudden changes from "I'm not in control" to "I am in control." So Alex believes that is totally intentional, and Bobby lists possibilities of why this would happen, and maybe Naomi doesn't have access to the comms, maybe something's broken, and she's pretty much got it right. However, they're still on the approach. And Alex points out that they'll get to the Tezcamoca before the Rosinante does. So they're still on course to set off the bomb, even though that they know that something's up. Now, it's funny because Bull, it does dismiss it as, it's probably just a malfunction, which is pretty dumb, because Alex rightfully points out that it can't be coincidence. But Holden, he doesn't really care. He's kind of just, for him, it just reemphasizes that they need to get to her as soon as possible. And he says we need to get there, faster. And Bull shoots him, it's like, we don't have enough fuel or whatever. And Holden just shoots him a look, and he kind of just shuts up. So that's pretty much all we get with that. As for the Naomi part of it, again, it's hard for me to sort of make sense out of what's going on by just her actions. I did watch the after show with Ty Frank, and he explained that every time she goes out, she loses more air, which is why she's marking the marks on the wall to keep track of how much air she has left. And of course, each time it takes a bigger toll on her body because there's less air. And so she sees on the sort of radar or whatever you call it, that the Screaming Firehawk, or the Razorback, Alex's ship, is approaching. And so at first she's like happy to see him, but then she starts crying and freaking out because she realizes that they're gonna die and set off the bomb. So we see her set off on another mission out on her suit. And this time she leaves the door open. I can't remember if she left the door open every time, or if it's significant that she just left the door open this time. And that's sort of what we hang the cliffhanger on for the episode. So this will obviously be resolved in the next episode, which should be quite a spectacular finale. And so these scenes do a good job of really raising the tension and getting me really invested in that. And god damn it, I want to see it. Anyway, we also get a few scenes with Marco and Phillip, and it's interesting because Marco, of course, gets a call from Corral on Drummership, who informs him about Naomi's message, and so he's pissed off. He immediately assumes that it means that Naomi's still alive, and in fact, later he goes and have a conversation with Phillip where he apologizes. But he kind of again, he has an ulterior motive for apologizing, not because he's a great dad or because he actually cares, but he's manipulating Phillip. In this case, he tells Phillip that Naomi is still alive, that when she went into the airlock, it wasn't to commit suicide, it was to escape. And it's sort of, again, painting her as the villain, as the bad guy who keeps abandoning her own son, which we know there's more to that story than that. We know that she's trying to free her son from a madman psychopath, but is unable to do it, so is doing the best she can. But Phillip is fully manipulated and takes this as his mother doesn't care about him and just abandoned him again, which is, it's tragic because that's total nonsense, bullshit, but Marco is great at manipulating his own son. So then we get some stuff with Drummer, which is interesting because at first we get a scene between Corral and Oksana, I believe her name is, and she convinces Oksana not to tell Drummer that there's the possibility Naomi is still alive. But then Marco sends a message to Drummer in her ship saying that they're the rendezvous with a couple other ships and that they will together attack the Rocinante. And Drummer immediately catches on that this doesn't seem right, because if Naomi's dead and the ship is a trap and it's going to blow up the Rocinante, why would Marco send them to destroy the Rocinante? It doesn't make any sense. And when she points it out, Corral comes up with this excuse, which is an obvious bullshit excuse, and Drummer calls her out on this, and then Corral goes to, just do what you're told route after that. But Drummer still knows that something is definitely up. So she goes to Oksana and is like, look, after all this shit I'm eating, I lost my friend Ashford, I lost Fred Johnson, I lost Naomi, and how much shit do you want me more do I have to eat before you're honest with me? Because she can tell that Oksana is hiding something from her. But Oksana has a good reason to, so Oksana asks, look, do you love me? Do you love us as much as Naomi? And she's like, yes. And then, Oksana tells her that there's a possibility Naomi's still alive on the ship, and the reason why Marco wants them to destroy the Rocinante is to prevent them from helping her. And Drummer, of course, starts to run off very upset, but Oksana knows immediately that she's trying to do something about it. And so tells Drummer, like, look, stop, because if you love us, you have to let them go, because we will die. Keep in mind that we will die if you help Naomi, if you defy Marco, you will be killing all of us. And if you love us, you wouldn't do that. So it's quite a conundrum that they put Drummer in. It's really powerful stuff. I also got to mention the scene earlier when there was a conflict between Drummer and Corral when they were ordered to destroy the Rocinante, which Drummer's not okay with. She mentioned before how, her best friend Naomi, someone she loved, died, and now she's being asked to kill all of her friends. And I love how Oksana actually had to ask Drummer to give her a gun. She's like, why? She's like, why? I actually think that was kind of smart on Oksana's part, because I think the possibility was really strong that Drummer would just shoot Corral right then and there. And the thing is that because the thing you have to remember is that one of their people, like a member of this polyamorous group, so they're all lovers, they all love each other, and one of them is on Marco's ship, Serge, I believe his name is. And so if Drummer were to just kill Corral, Serge is as good as dead. So through her actions would be killing one of their own, one of the members of this group. And so yeah, it's not black and white. And I think Oksana is more worried about Drummer's temper, of her acting before thinking about the consequences of it, which again is probably a smart thing to do. But I would wager now that Drummer has all the information, that her next actions won't be instinct or won't be just a temper or rage, that they will be thought through. But whether that is going to be cooperating with Mark or not, because she is really in a rock and a hard place. She can choose to either let her best friend, someone that she loves, die by killing all of her friends, her best friend's friends, or let one of her lovers who's still on Marco's ship be killed, and all of them, possibly sentencing them all to be killed by Marco. So it is a conundrum. And so I'm still not sure which way she's going to go, but one thing I'm certain is that this decision she's going to make will be thought through rather than just heat of the moment, temper sort of thing, which sort of bodes well for what she's going to do with this conundrum. So it's a very interesting scenario, and has a great setup for the finale. Although I will say, kind of, I don't know, it seems to me kind of redundant to send Drummer and a bunch of ships to kill the Rocinante when the trap they set for it still, by all means, could work. I guess Marco's just like double checking to make sure, but to me, from a story standpoint, I think it kind of takes the tension away a little bit now that we have I guess the tension is more on Drummer attacking the Rocinante, while the Screaming Firehawk with Alex's ship could be destroyed by the booby trap. But yeah, as I said, very, very good setup. I'm very interested to see where they take it from here. So then we get the storyline with Avasarala, where they do indeed, we find out that the Secretary General did indeed attack Palace Station. Now, I was a bit surprised and kind of upset that we actually didn't see Marco or Drummers or anyone in the Belt's reaction to Palace Station being destroyed. Do you think there would be at least one scene where on Marco's ship where all the Belters there were like, oh my god, they destroyed Palace, those in us are going to pay, or something like that, where they get really upset and that fuels them up to attack more. But maybe that's to come. I guess there's, the communications delay is something that the Expanse actually does pay attention to, so maybe it'll be a while before they figure this out, so maybe we will get that scene to come. But I don't know, I was just disappointed that they didn't at all acknowledge Palace being destroyed, which is, in fact, a really, really huge deal. And of course, Avasarala was none too happy about this when she found out, and she yelled at Delgado, because it's like, you bastard, you went behind my back. And it's like, well, the Secretary General asked to speak to me, and I just gave him my honest opinion, blah, blah, blah. And then they go into the meeting, and Delgado and the Secretary General as well, who's on board with this, are talking about expanding the attacks, killing more stations, killing more civilians. They want to attack Ceres. They're even talking about attacking Callisto, which, by the way, is a Martian base, but they believe that the Belters have support there. And they, even though Anderson Dawes runs Ceres and he has identified himself as the ally, they don't care. They just want to destroy Ceres anyway, and they want to expand the attacks. And they even talking about destroying Tycho. When we know that Fred Johnson's allies are in control of Tycho at the moment, that the Marcus supporters are not. They've been banished from Tycho, but now the UN still wants to destroy Tycho as well. So Avasarala, in a more smart move than what Admiral Souther did back in season 2, but does a similar thing where she refuses to be a part of it and she resigns. And immediately the Secretary General is like, okay, I accept your resignation, get out. But a lot of the other ministers there resign as well in solidarity with Avasarala, saying that they absolutely cannot support it. And so And then in the next scene, we find that the ministers have sort of a majority of them have resigned. So they have decided to get together and do a vote of no confidence on the Secretary General in order to get him out of office. Now, a couple questions. If they resign, how can they do a vote if technically they're not members of Parliament anymore? I don't know how that works. Also, what is the deal with this vote of no confidence? The only other time I've heard that before was in the Star Wars movie. They're talking about the Galactic Senate when they use it as an excuse to get rid of the Chancellor so that Palpatine can take power. The vote of no confidence. This just means I'm not confident in you, so get out. I don't know. I'm sure that's a real life thing, but I just never heard of it before. Anyway, Avasarala questions the military general who came to her. Is like, so you're talking about a coup? And she's like, no, it's not a coup because the ministers are the ones who are doing that. They just volunteered me to talk to you about it. So what that means is Avasarala was concerned it's the military who was ousting the Secretary General, in which case that would be considered a coup. If it was the military who ousts a civilian leader. But the military general explained that no, it's not the military who is doing it. It is the own members of Parliament, so members of his own sort of position that are of the own civilian government that are getting rid of the civilian leader. They just asked the general to speak to Avasarala about becoming the new Secretary General. Just because it was a person who would be considered more neutral. So it's not a coup. And she makes that clear, so that's why Avasarala goes along with it. And then we jump very much into the next scene, where all of a sudden Avasarala is the Secretary General once again, because the vote of no confidence had overwhelming support, and so Delgado had to come in and just find out that Avasarala was once again the Secretary General and surprised, oh, they chose you. And so he wants to resign. Not resign, but resign from the cabinet. He wants to go off and be on one of the military ships that are looking for Marco because he wants to be the one to kill Marco. And then Avasarala has that nice, like, they finished a joke that they never got to finish before. They did in an early episode, so finally we waited like 8 episodes to get the punchline to this joke, and it's not that funny. In fact, like, Delgado even says, like, oh, that joke used to be more funny. And I don't really see the relevance of it. It's simply, the punchline is that the Earther says he'll drink the Belter swill, not because to know his enemies, but because he's trying to stop drinking, and Belter alcohol sucks. It's I guess it illustrates kind of how a lot of the culture and jokes are sort of geared towards punching down at Belters, and it sort of reiterates the sort of oppression that they've been facing from the inners. And there's a couple things I did want to talk about earlier in the earlier scene we got with the argument between Avasarala and Pastor, I think his name is, the Secretary General, and I thought it was an amazing scene. Because when Avasarala points out, for every partisan you killed, you created 10 more. And I think she's absolutely on point. And I think that's why they had it. And I think part of the reason why they did the vote of no confidence is because of what Avasarala was saying in that room, that she did stir everyone to realize that what David Pastor was doing was wrong, and that he was just making matters worse. And it was obvious that it's an interesting turn they have for this character, who is probably only in a couple episodes, because he came in at first. I talked about how he was humble and realized that he would defer to someone with superior experience like Avasarala, but he very quickly went from that to being caught up in this need for revenge, and instead followed the military generals and rejected what Avasarala is saying, because he's kind of got a bit power hungry, kind of thinking, well, I'm in charge now, when it was obvious to everyone else in that room, everyone else in Parliament, that he wasn't qualified for the job. And it was obvious that Avasarala was. Now, when Avasarala told Delgado that they gave her the position probably for name recognition more than anything else, I think she was just being humble. I don't think that's the case. I think it wasn't for name recognition. I think it was because they saw firsthand that she was, and also her record rather than name recognition, because she had a record of doing the right thing, of defeating conspiracies, protecting Earth from a potent molecule, and plus they saw in that room that she knew what she was doing, where David Pastor clearly did not. So I think that had a lot more to do with it than simply name recognition. And so she talked before about that their next action should not be to increase the attacks, but to try to spin it as a sort of one-time thing, and try to do damage control, and try to build up allies in the belt to take on Marco and sow discord. Something that David Pastor didn't have the patience to do, but it was obviously the smarter move. Also, I love the line when Delgado tries to argue with Avasarala, and he says that something along the lines of that Marco wouldn't hesitate to kill all these civilians. And I love Avasarala's retort where she's like, "Oh, is Marco our role model now?" Which, goddamn, that was such a great line. So that was an interesting scene. But we have Avasarala in control now. I'm still uncertain if Delgado is actually going to stay with her or go off. That was kind of left open-ended because they were just talking about that joke. But if I had to guess, I would say he's staying. But I think that's what that scene was indicating, but I could be wrong. Anyway, let's get into the big thing of the episode, with this Amos and Clarissa. Now, I'm going to say something that might be slightly controversial, or a lot of people may disagree with. But out of all the storylines this season, I think that the Amos and Clarissa one is probably my least favorite. Now, that's not to say, calm down, everyone. And that's not to say that I don't like it, because I do. I do like it, obviously. I think it's really good. But I just feel less connected. Like in this episode in particular, I think it was illustrated the most because I was more interested in what was going on with Naomi and being trapped, and Avasarala having to deal with, the attacks on the Belters and how that would affect the Belt and Drummer and her conundrum, than I was with the Amos stuff, which is what the bulk of the episode was, and it was actually resolving this storyline pretty much. And yet I was more interested, and I would have rather saw the Naomi stuff resolved. So, but that's just me. That's just my personal opinion. As I said, I don't hate the storyline, not by any means. I love Amos and all that, and I think the character development they had with Amos and Clarissa this season was great. But I don't know. To me, there's just less meat on this bones, and it seems a bit more of a simplistic, try to escape the Earth, escape from New York, or escape from the Earth episode, kind of storyline, and I do love the suspense in this episode, and the fight scenes were done really, really well. And I particularly like the scenes with Clarissa convincing sort of Amos and Eric to do the right thing. Like, I like how when they find all those workers who are just left there like caretakers for the winter, and they're kind of, they didn't really do anything wrong, and so how Clarissa sort of convinces them to convinces Eric and Amos to take him with him, and especially when all of those other workers from around the neighborhood show up, and Eric is totally against it, but Clarissa sticks up for them and convinces Amos, and Amos is like, okay, they're coming, and makes the final choice, and I love that. I think, and I like the sort of dialogue Clarissa had with Eric when she was explaining herself, and how the whole thing about the tribe and how they need to grow the tribe. even if the people they're bringing in don't necessarily contribute anything. It's still better to have a larger tribe, which goes back to Amos saying that he and Clarissa were just a tribe of two. And I like that. I thought that was really great. And I love Eric's response of, oh, where did he find you? And she was like, oh, in prison for multiple homicides. Because she's talking like all this, like lovey-dovey, we need to help people. And then so it's like, oh, yeah, and I killed a whole bunch of people. But it does show her growth, her character growth, and how she is really important to her to move beyond that, to redeem herself and make amends for the stuff she's done in the past. And she's genuine about that. But then, of course, we do see when shit hits the fan, when those security guards actually do attack, that she used her mods to just kill all 6 of them with her bare hands. So she's still capable of murder. And I love how when they find her, after she killed the 6 people, Eric's just like, remind me to be nicer to her. So that was cool. Now, the whole thing about the security team attacking their position, I don't know. I was a bit iffy on this whole storyline. It seemed like it was kind of contrived in order to have this action scene. They kind of just show up out of nowhere, and the way that Eric and Amos treat them is like, oh, this is the stupidest, the dumbest, protection record thing ever. It's so obvious. But it seems like they should be taking them more seriously, because they actually do put up such a huge fight at the end that maybe I don't know. It doesn't seem like their mocking was accurate. And also, this is one point I disagree with Clarissa, because she convinces them not to kill the security guys when they first show up. And it seems to me that they actually should have, because less people would have died at the end if their numbers weren't so strong, and if they did actually just kill them right there. But I don't know. And also thinking about during this whole storyline how it kind of parallels the Avasarala storyline in terms of maybe violence isn't always the answer, and maybe you always got to find a different way around. But in this case, it did seem like violence was the answer. It seemed the fact that they let those guys go was kind of a bad call. Although, on the other hand, Clarissa saving all the other people, that was the right call. So, I don't know. She was right. I don't know. It seems like the episode's trying to tell me that it was a good thing that Clarissa convinced them not to kill those security guys. But I think it was a bad thing, personally. But yeah, it was a really exciting scene, seeing them fight to get out, and Amos dragging that woman on board who's been shot. There was beautiful music that was well placed that showed the awe of Amos being back in space and how he felt. You really got the feeling when he was looking out into space and looking over Earth that he feels like he's home now. That space is his home now, and not Earth. And that was a pretty beautiful scene. So my rating for Winnipesaukee out of 10, I'm gonna give this episode an 8. Extremely good. As I said, the Amos stuff was suspenseful. Not my favorite, but I did like it. I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed the Avasarala debating scenes this episode. But I wish they would have gotten into more detail on the impact that destroying Palace Station will have on the politics of the belt, and all the other stuff in this episode. Of course, is great setup for the finale, which has me really amped for it. So not a great episode in its own right, but a good one and a really great setup. So really interested to see the finale. So that's it for my review of Winnipesaukee. I shall be back next week to cover the finale of The Expanse in just a couple days. I will be joined by my sister Alyssa and Darren from D's Reviews as we discuss this episode in greater detail. I shall have a link in the description below for that event, which will take place Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific West Coast Time. and you can click on that link in the description, and it will tell you what time it will be in your local time zone if you live outside of those time zones. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out our live discussion. You can join us in the chat or just watch the discussion afterwards in the archives. I've gotten several complaints about the amount of ads that are in these live discussion videos. I think particularly if you watch them afterwards. But that is completely out of my control. That is a YouTube thing. So don't complain to me, complain to YouTube. I just click yes on monetization. I have no control of how many ads play. Personally, I would do less ads if I had control, but unfortunately I do not. Just throwing that out there. Anyway, be sure to check that out and check out my channel as I cover many other shows like Star Trek, Breaking Bad, The Outer Limits, and more. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. Thanks a lot for watching.